Hello, this is David Carr, your Milford, New Haven, Connecticut real estate specialist, and today we're going to be looking at the Milford, New Haven House Price Index and the Carr Value Shelf, which I first identified in 2014. We're going to be looking at the FHFA House Price Index and how that relates to this metro and Connecticut in general. We're also going to be looking at other trends and factors that affect values in real estate. Obviously, there's multiple values of home ownership besides the equity value, but most people think about what their house is worth, but also what does your house give you as far as quality of life and location and the entire home ownership experience. That's sometimes a little bit harder to put into dollars when you think about where you're going to be making your memories. So we're going to take a look at this, and I encourage you to stop it at any time that you want to see more. And we can see the national index here of Connecticut. And, this was all reported on February 26, 2019, and Connecticut had the second smallest annual appreciation in the United States. And, we placed 222nd in national position, and over the past 5 years, we've only gone up 7.3, which is pretty amazing when you think about some of the national news right now. So if we look at the largest metropolitan areas, you can see the ones that appreciated less than Connecticut. And only 3 appreciated less in a year, 14 appreciated less in a quarter, and none in the other 2 categories here, which is very interesting, which makes me believe that this is a somewhat undervalued market based on our location. You can see our 5-year appreciation since 1991 in the far right column, which is pretty unique. And we're going to talk about how we get these values as well. So the highest rates of appreciation nationwide, you can see the 5-year around 75%. Some amazing 1-year appreciations here out west, and I don't know if anybody's from around there. And the lowest appreciations, we've got a couple in Connecticut actually. We've got Hartford at position 239 and Bridgeport, Stamford at 235. And you see I've added New Haven in here just for illustration. We're at position 222. And all of this is available at the FHFA.gov. And this is a public website. This takes a look at going back to 1991 where equity was. And this HPI index was started in 1991 at 100. And you can see how in the early 90s Connecticut really hung right around this 90 position for a long time until it broke out in 1999. Everybody who bought a house before that point in time would have positive equity up until 2004. That's when the Great Recession really kicked into gear, and the irrational exuberance and all the exotic lending. So people who bought houses in this little period of time are still in negative equity if they do still own their houses. But it's interesting that everybody who bought their house after 2009 has positive equity. Even though the prices went down a bit through 2013, they did all recover, and that's when we started the Carr Value Shelf, was in 2014 around 161. So you can see how this develops over time. So appreciation by state, you can see Connecticut is at the very bottom. Here's our 74% since 1991, which I believe makes it an undervalued market. And what we're talking about is what these house price data indexes are. There's 2 data. There's purchase only and expanded data. So if you were to look at this, you'd see that they run pretty parallel. The purchase only shows a little bit smaller, but it's rather small, about 1%. If we look at the United States overall, you can see the appreciation and what's happened since 2006. The prices went up, went down, and we're going to compare some of these charts to what's happening in Connecticut. And this shows you quarterly as well as annual change with the solid line. I think we're going to see Connecticut mirroring the quarterly change over time, because our appreciation has been in around the 1 or 2% range. So this line shows you the difference between the appreciation nationwide and what's going on in Connecticut. And this basically shows 1 year. So you can drill into this as tight as you want or come out. And all transactions house price indexes. So for that year, again, you saw us in position 222. This is where I got that data. And this shows you where we are for the United States, and you can see how the peak was achieved, and then it was bypassed by a lot of the United States around 2016 compared to the low. But you see what happened when we look at the same data for Connecticut, we never got back to that peak, which again creates this space of underappreciation. If we look at Norwalk, you can see how it's moving along. It hit the peak and started to appreciate a little, which is interesting when you look at the economic activity from the Federal Reserve in St. Louis, and you can see how economic activity went up, but house prices didn't. So this is kind of a conundrum for us here. This shows you what's happening in New Haven. You see how it hit the bottom, and we've had a little bit of recovery, but again, not up to the top, but our economic conditions are improving. So there's a lot of ways we can look at properties. This is the house price indicator. You can pick any metro or state, and what I've done here for comparison is I've gone back in time. So this shows you how things look on a quarterly basis. Let's see if we can zoom out a little bit here so you can see the whole screen better. There we go. Okay, so you can see how in 2 quarters, a price that you bought in the beginning of 2018 might have lost a couple $1,000s. And at the very 18, it almost goes back to the 100 that you would have purchased. And then last year, you've seen appreciation. And this is what we're going to see as we move along. As we look at the chart extend itself, we're going to see appreciation above this $100,000 purchase price. You can see the purchase price here is $100,000, and we've got the purchase quarter. Now we're in 2015, and the evaluation quarter. So we're looking at someone who owned their house 3 years in this Milford, New Haven metro. And it's interesting that we say, I went the wrong way. Am I going the wrong way? No, I'm going the right way. Okay, here we go. So here's 2014. We see more appreciation. And it's important to think about the calculator, and this is a very general index. And it compares all the houses in the area and crushes them into this number. So it's very important to get a professional estimate of any property. This is something that I'm very good at doing. I can look at any property in the neighborhood and do a hyperlocal comparison based on the amenities and the location. So what we're doing is looking at an overview of an area, because there are a lot of statistics and you're going to hear lots of information about what the market is doing. So you need to understand this data. And here we are back to 2013. You see, again, we see the appreciation that's happened. And remember I said anyone after 2009 would be in positive area. So here we go. There's the 2009. That's that point where you're right at the break-even point. And now we're going to see people who bought in that Great Recession period, how they lost some value compared to today. But even the amount that they would have been down, you see it's about 14,000 at this point in time. And there it goes back up again. So you see, this is before the Great Recession, and again, we see value past that point like I showed you. Finally, if we're going to look hyperlocal, we can see what's been happening in the prior 7 months, in the prior 4 to 6 months, and in the current period. And what's interesting here is we see an absorption rate, which is the amount of time to sales per month, and how the velocity of sales is, and how the comparable listing prices are. So you see comparable listing prices are up, but in this one the comparable sales price is down because this happened 3 months ago. And we're able to look at any type of property like this, North Branford. What we're looking at here is a property that's about 1,500 square feet. And so you can, so we can do it, you can see it right here. So you can see it's 1,400 to 2,200 square feet with 3 bedrooms. And we can look at these different properties and be very specific about what's in your market and what you're interested in buying, because your market is what you're interested in. It's not the market. When you hear the real estate market is this and the real estate market is that, but how does this compare to what you're interested in? So here's North Haven. You see North Haven has seen some appreciation. So finally, we go back to the national thing, and the top 5 states in annual appreciation. I encourage you to stop the video and look at this any time. But again, this is why I feel that we have an undervalued market considering our location, our quality of life, resources, schools, healthcare, and a nice climate. And it's an important thing. And we can see the standard of error, how the house price values reached up to 220 if you were to look at this in all the charts. And here's our New Haven Milford house price index, and you see this equity point again of people who bought a house after 2011 on this scale. The equity point was 181, and it did go down and it stabilized. But anybody who bought after that point would have gone along this value shelf, and this is a period of stabilization, I believe, in my opinion, that we haven't seen prices change a lot. And then we're starting to see the accelerated velocity in price change. So even though we did see some prices go down in our metro, we still saw the overall house price index remain about the same, because you see the margin of error here went up 0.42, even though it showed an increase of value of only 0.02. So obviously there's a margin of error, but this is an important thing to consider about what the velocity of the market is, how many properties are selling, and what you would look to do. So as a real estate professional, it's interesting to consider when there's a price of stability in the environment. Because when we have stability, I believe the more properties that are sold in that area, it creates value and confidence. And it's reasonable to consider the inflationary data when you think about 30-year interest rates in the 5-year non-inflationary environment. I wrote a product about home ownership builds wealth, and we talked about a person buying a $275,000 property compared to renting over 30 years, and the $275,000 property turns out to be worth over $550,000, while the renter sees his rent go from about $2,200 up to $4,000 over the same period of time if you factor in appreciation and inflation. So it's important to make a good decision when the time is right for you and consider the multiple values. But this is my presentation on the Carr value shelf and the Milford New Haven house price index ending fourth quarter. I'd encourage you to reach out to me at my office in Milford, Connecticut here, 203-877-2704, and we'll look at the type of property and neighborhood that you're interested in so you can identify what values are meaningful to you. So have a great day, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon.